morning, Rotarians and guests. Good morning. It's good to see so many guests this morning. My name's Ron Strobel. I'm the Sergeant at Arms. Our invocation this morning is by Jim Ahern. Good morning.
Good morning.
This invocation is about invocations. Invocations are an ancient and vital tradition the world over. To begin with, invocations provide a space, a moment of stillness, and allow the mind to settle. Then, as we acknowledge the source of our nourishment and opportunity to get together, we're filled with the astonishment at the generosity of the Creator, with gratitude and praise. In bringing the body, mind, and heart together, we come to know ourselves and remember who we are, why we are here together, to enjoy one another and really celebrate the occasion so as not to be lost. An invocation establishes an immediate connection with our collective memory and possibly the group task at hand. In such a moment, when our minds are clear and the truth is reinforced by being sounded aloud, we can dedicate this day to the thankful service we provide to those we help. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Jim. And to lead us in the pledge and the four-way test, face from our past, back from the south, Bob Cramp.
Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test. First,
Is it the truth?
second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
third,
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
fourth.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
You remember me yet?
Thank you, Bob. It's good to see you back. To lead us in song, Dick Pearsall.
Okay. Well, we have a very attentive young lady here this morning. She's got the words up for it. I thought we wouldn't lead it, but let's go. America, for spacious skies, for amber waves of rain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. Give it a kick. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Thank you, young lady.
And now our president, Joe Avella.
Okay, good morning, Rotarians. Good morning. It's good to see everybody here on a nice sunny day, and hopefully everybody's awake after that song. So I'd like to bring up Chris to introduce some of our very distinguished guests we have this morning.
Good morning, Rotarians and guests. We have a few people joining us today. If they could please stand when I call their name, and we'll give them a nice Rotary welcome. Well, we have joining us for his third meeting, Tom Fleming, and guest of Joe Zapatowski. Thank you for joining us again. And then we have Jim McKee, District Governor-elect. Thank you, Jim. And Bob Haydorn, inbound chair for the Rotary Youth Exchange. And then we also have Pat Myers from the Clock Tower Rotary, and she's also Assistant Governor. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Chris. Just a word of an announcement. Today in Hudson is Safe Routes Day, biking to school. Catherine, would you stand up and show everybody that wonderful T-shirt? That's, yep, so, yes.
No, I didn't bike here.
You didn't bike.
But it's a day to encourage all the kids to either walk or ride their bikes at Everett.
Yes, so a reminder, please drive safely when you leave here and see those kids. Gail, going to talk about the gala, right? Is there anything to talk about? And Evan? I will do the mobile bidding, yes.
Okay. Cool. All right, are we ready? Yeah. Hey, Evan, what would we do without you? Anyway, a week from Friday, and I think we still have plenty of room for you to sell more tickets. And we have tickets right there with Tom, or you can go to the website. Who can tell me what the website is? What's the address?
Awesome. Oh, I'm sorry.
www.
Rotary20160504.
Got it? Everybody got it? That's how you can order tickets. You don't have to necessarily give a check to Tom today. You can order your tickets online. We want to fill that place with all of the wonderful gifts that we have. Fabulous donations, trips, sporting events, lots of wonderful, wonderful things. So, our esteemed president is going to give us a real quick lesson on the flyer that I put on your table, so you get a little bit familiar before you come that night. The biggest thing to remember is make sure your phone is charged before you come. Joe?
Thank you, Gail. So we will be using this year a company called Gesture with mobile bidding. And one further announcement before we start on this. Ron is going to hand out, we need people to assist us that evening, just as we've done in the past, assist us with checking in and checking out and whatever. So Ron is going to pass out a sign-up sheet. And so if you can...
I'll just say a few words about it.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're going to say a few words. Okay. Okay. So we're going to use our mobile phones. And if you don't have a mobile phone, we have an alternative for you. But when you first arrive at the gala, you will come into the registration desk, just as you always have, and there will be Gesture staff there, as well as some of our Rotarians. And you will provide your cell phone number, if they already don't have it, and you will provide a credit card, and they'll swipe your credit card. And after you receive after that check-in, you will then receive a text message. And when you click on that text message, you'll be taken to your own personal shopping site for the gala. All the items that are that we will have there at the gala will be listed on your personal site. And you'll be able to go and bid right online, right on your telephone. So we have a little short, a 4-minute video that explains some of that. We'll have some question and answers after that if we need to. So Ellie, can you fire that up?
We are so excited to invite you to participate in our auction. In order to get started, you will need to register with Gesture. You will be asked to provide your name and cell phone number, and you may have the option to pre-swipe a credit card in order to expedite checkout. Once you have registered, you will receive a welcome text message which includes your personal bidding link. Be sure not to share this link with anyone else, as it is directly tied to your account. Once you've registered, you will be able to browse, buy, and bid on silent auction items. To do so, select the blue link in your welcome text message. This will direct you to the items page of our auction site. You can view items by category or search for items directly. Select any item of interest to view the item's full description, as well as the current bid or price. The system will auto-populate a bid amount based on the designated increment for all auction items. Select Bid to place a bid at this amount, or enter an alternate amount that is larger than the auto-populated bid amount, and then select Bid. If your bid is accepted, a box will appear congratulating you as the leading bidder. You also have the option to place an auto bid. An auto bid enables the system to automatically bid up to a designated amount for you. The system will bid incrementally up to this amount as long as someone bids against you. If no one bids against your auto bid, the current price will remain. To place an auto bid, select Auto and enter the max amount you wish to bid. Then select Bid. If you are outbid at any time on an auction item, you will receive a text message notification. A banner will also appear across each item you bid on to indicate your current status, either winning or losing. If you wish to make a donation, simply select the Donation tab at the top of your screen. Select the Click to Donate button, enter the amount you wish to donate, and select Donate. If donation amounts are provided, you are able to click on your selected donation amount and click Donate. If Gesture is facilitating checkout, you will have the option to pay for all of your purchases through your phone. Once the silent auction is ended, you will receive a text message with payment instructions. Click the personal bidding link in this message, which will direct you to a page to pay. You can also click on the Pay tab that is located at the top of your screen to access this payment page. After reviewing your cart, select Click here to pay. If you pre-swiped a credit card, you can pay with that card. Otherwise, you may enter a new credit card. Once your payment is processed, a paid stamp will appear on your receipt. Show this stamp in order to pick up your items. Once your payment has been processed, you will have the option to download and email yourself a copy of your receipt. If you would like to download your receipt, select Download My Receipt, and this receipt will automatically download to your computer. If you would like a copy of your receipt sent to your email, you will select Send Receipt Link to My Email. Please take note that if your email is already in the system, an email will be sent directly to that email address. If your email address is not yet in the system, you will be prompted to enter in your email address. If any changes need to be made to your receipt, please notify a Gesture team member before processing your payment so that they can make the necessary corrections. Now you're ready to bid.
Okay, so it sounds easy, and it really is easy. Thank you, Ellie. If for some reason you don't have a mobile phone, the Gesture staff that is there, they can act as your personal shopper, and they will be able to place a bid for you. Are there any questions about mobile bidding?
How are you instructing guests?
We leave it up to the Rotarians to instruct their guests. And provide us, but the Gesture people will be there as well. Yeah. So, any other questions? Okay, Ron, did you want to talk about the staff?
Okay, as in the past, I'm passing around a clipboard, and there are 2 pages here. One of them basically has to do with the evening of the auction. As Joe said, we need some helpers for registration. Basically, Gesture will register the people, but we'll need someone there to, need a couple of people on each of 2 shifts to pass out the auction, the gala program to the attendee. So you'll be doing that same thing that you've done in the past, but you don't have to check names off or anything like that. It'll just be a matter of handing out the programs. Live auction helpers, we'll need a couple to walk around with items during the live auction. Table monitors, that's the thing that Joe was just talking about. We will need people, a Rotarian and probably a scout, at each one of the tables after the auction is over to help people find their items and to check to make sure that their phone says paid so they can pick up their items there. Cash and checkouts taken care of already. Certificate checkouts, all the certificates will be separate. They won't be on the tables. So if your guests have purchased a certificate, that'll be available at the window next to the cash and checkout. Cleanup, anybody that can stay and help collect items and generally clean up afterwards. The other one has to do with Friday gift delivery and setup. For gift delivery, we'll need people to meet
at about 9:30 at the Howard Hanna basement with SUVs or vans to pick up the gifts and transport them to the Hilton. Then from 10 o'clock till we're done, we'll need people to help set up. Hopefully Den Rich is available for table setup. He has done a great job in the past few years, and I'm hoping that our, what do we call you? Rose, I know that. She dresses up the tables and makes them look beautiful. And then, sorry for all you guys that wanted to go down and pick up the Corvette. Jim Hackney's already agreed to do that. So I'll start this around, and I'll also have it here next week to fill in any gaps. Oh, and there's a couple other names already filled in here. I'll deliver the step 2 climbing thing, and Brad Nelson will deliver the bicycles about noon.
Day before.
No.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Just 2 more dates to remember. If you want to buy a ticket online, you need to do so no later than Sunday evening, because Sunday evening online ticket purchases will end on Sunday. The other thing is pre-bidding. Evan has been busy over this past week downloading all of the items, all of the silent auction items on our website. And I understand, Evan, that you did a very good job, according to Gesture. Thank you. So
hop on and check it out yourself.
You can on as of Monday, the 9th, the website will open, so you can begin to bid online for any particular silent auction items that you want. And then when you go on and register, you'll provide a credit card, but you can do pre-bidding starting on Monday. So, Gail and Ron, anything else that we've missed? I don't think so. Okay, so let's move into our program. Today we begin our series on parks and recreation. And I will ask George Snyder to come and introduce our distinguished guest.
Good morning, Rotarians. Good morning. So, Parks and Recreation this month, and who better to start that than my good friend Daniel M. Rice. Dan is the president and CEO of the Ohio and Erie Canalway Coalition, which is headquartered in downtown Akron. The coalition is a regional organization dedicated to the conservation, development, and interpretation of life along the historic Ohio and Erie Canal, which transported people, goods, and livestock from the Ohio River north up to Lake Erie and back down again. That canal is now part of the Ohio and Erie National Heritage Canalway, which stretches from Cleveland to New Philadelphia. Most of us know it best for the 101-mile multi-use towpath trail which runs alongside the canal. Dan has led the Canalway Coalition since 1994, and working with over 150 community partnerships, has raised over $40 million in development funds. He is a graduate of the College of Worcester and received his MA in American History from the University of Akron. Before joining the Canalway Coalition, he served as an interpretation curator of the Summit County Historical Society, where he was responsible for educational programming, exhibit development, and the preservation of over 250,000 artifacts. Dan has been active locally, regionally, and nationally in the historic preservation movement, and played a key role in organizing the Alliance of National Heritage Areas. He is a graduate of both Leadership Akron and Leadership Cleveland, and has received awards too numerous to mention for his work in historic preservation. He is also a nationally recognized consultant who has advised conservation organizations from New York to Hawaii. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm Rotary welcome to Daniel M. Rice.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you all very much for this opportunity.
The mic, because it's
Sure.
recorded for television.
Zero. Get it removed here. Well, thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity, especially to be the first speaker of your Parks and Recreation, kicking off the series here. And I understand next week, you actually have Craig Kinkle, the superintendent of Cuyahoga Valley National Park. So it's quite an honor to be amongst those incredible distinguished speakers. This is actually a photograph of Summit Lake and the towpath trail as it goes across Summit Lake. How many of you folks have actually been out on the towpath trail? A lot of veterans out there. On a day like today, especially after a nice healthy breakfast, we could all probably go for a nice walk or bicycle ride on the towpath trail. But as George mentioned, that really is kind of the main feature of our project, the Ohio and Erie Canal Towpath Trail. It is a very unique feature. It goes 101 miles, as George indicated, from the shores of Lake Erie all the way down to Tuscarawas County. The canal at one time actually ran all the way down to Portsmouth on the Ohio River, but we're focused primarily on a 100-mile section through 4 counties. It's a really great, as George mentioned, a really economic development project, and it's not only just about recreation, it's about jobs and opportunity, because companies and corporations are looking for these type of amenities in which to locate their headquarters, because they're looking for places where their employees can recreate in a safe environment, lead healthier lifestyles, which tend to lead to lower healthcare costs. Because on a day like today in downtown Akron, there were probably over 500 people out there just walking on the trail. A lot of the businesses have their corporate headquarters in downtown Akron, and the same thing in other locations. And ironically enough, this is actually originally where the original boardwalk actually went on the towpath trail. It was a floating boardwalk where the mules literally walked on water. So you too can walk on water where the mules walked. Sadly, though, this is also roughly the same location where you may have heard about 2 weeks ago where vandals actually burned a section of the floating bridge. This is actually Summit Lake. This is north towards Akron. This is south towards Barberton. It would be probably about another quarter-mile south here, actually where this banner is probably located. Really unfortunate, to be perfectly honest with you. There's very little vandalism or any type of crime on the towpath trail. As George mentioned, I've had the pleasure of working on this project for 23 years, and I can count on my one hand the number of times where this has actually happened. It's just you're generally safer on a trail than you are in any other place because you have 2.5 million people using the trail. But about 2 weeks ago, vandals, very determined vandals I might add, carried propane tanks about a quarter-mile down the trail and burned about a 40-foot section. Very unfortunate, but I'm here to tell you today that as of yesterday, 2 weeks later, the trail was reopened with a temporary connection. Through the incredible partnership with Summit Metro Parks and the City of Akron, it's not the permanent connection, it's a temporary connection. So we put in a very small section so that people can connect through, because one of the first things we heard in the past 2 weeks was that people not only use this trail for recreation, but they use it for transportation. We got at least a dozen email messages from folks saying, I just moved down to this section by Barberton, and I use the towpath trail to ride to work. And so it becomes, so that's another added benefit. It's not just about recreation, it's just not about economic development. It truly is transportation, and it really complements the great work that Craig Tallman does with the Scenic Railroad, which I'll talk about in a few minutes here. Uh-oh. Operator malfunction. Just hit the one on the right? Okay, good. we'll just do it that way, Ellie, if that's okay. But as George mentioned, what's really interesting is that what was once a great transportation resource is now a great economic development resource as well. At one time, the canal systems were the interstate highway systems of the 1800s, because you literally could not get products out of Ohio or into Ohio. And it literally catapulted for Ohio from a rural, isolated frontier settlement to the third most populous state in the nation. Had an absolutely dramatic impact. By about the 1900s, really early 1900s, I'm sorry, about the 1900s, the railroads came into being. But obviously they were much faster. They could go year-round. And so the canals kind of survived up until about 1913. But then what's interesting is right about the 1960s, there was a revitalization, not about making it a transportation resource, but why not turn it into an economic development resource? Why not turn it into a recreational resource? And really, under the leadership of Congressman Ralph Regula, down in the village of Navarre, thanks to his leadership, we actually not only have Cuyahoga Valley National Park in his partnership with Congressman John Seiberling, we also now have a regional park, if you think about it that way. But it's a little bit different than a traditional park sense, because the Cuyahoga Valley National Park, we, the citizens of this country, own those 33,000 acres. The National Heritage Area that goes all the way from Cleveland to New Philadelphia, there are many owners of it. The canal and the towpath trail is actually owned by about 16 to 20 different local partners. And so it's locally managed and locally developed. So that's the big distinction. The Cuyahoga Valley National Park, Craig, can share with you their budget numbers. I think it's well in excess of probably $8 or $9 million for the heritage area to help develop the towpath trail and preserve historic buildings. We are eligible, but not guaranteed, to receive a grant of $640,000. So we have to go out there and leverage additional resources. Our vision is to really go out there and to engage the public in a regional project, to get their local investment, to really accomplish two things: to promote stewardship and to also promote community and economic development. This is a shot of the Mustell store in downtown Akron. It's a great example of our partnership that we have at the local level, where you have, it's actually owned, the structure's owned by the city of Akron. A local nonprofit actually manages the buildings as a small museum, and then Summit Metro Parks is a local park agency that actually maintains the trail. So really it's three agencies that are coming together to develop and preserve this resource right on the banks of the Ohio Erie Canal in downtown Akron. George had mentioned partnerships. That really is one of the core principles of what we do. This actually is a map showing you the region of our footprint. We have a sister agency, Canalway Partners, that primarily focuses in Cleveland and Cuyahoga County, and then we tend to focus our priorities on Summit, Stark, and Tuscarawas counties. But we complement each other in our activities and really leverage local resources to develop the Ohio Erie Canalway. And so in 1996, we're actually celebrating our 20th year. Congress said, we want you to go out there and preserve historic buildings. We want you to promote the conservation of the canal and develop the towpath trail and connector trails and preserve natural areas. But there's two catches, they said 20 years ago. Number one, you have no authorities. Number two, we're not going to give you all the money. So good luck. That's in essence what happened 20 years ago. And so 20 years later today, of the 101 miles, 86 of the miles, really from Harvard Avenue all the way down through Akron and Stark County to about down here to Zoar, are completed. So we're pretty much so making a great progress on the towpath trail. Ironically enough, the two areas where it's not completed, about 5 miles up here in the Cleveland area to Lake Erie, and 10 miles down here from Zoar down to New Philadelphia. Our goal is to complete it by 2020. That's what the big picture goal is. So that ultimately you'll be able to walk or ride your bicycle right outside the city of Hudson and go north or south. The challenges are, in a lot of these areas, the canal land is gone. It's now privately owned. And so now we have to go back and secure easements or purchase property. In the urban landscape, as you're well familiar, the properties, there's brownfield sites or industrial sites. In some cases, many years ago, down in the flats, they were outright hostile to hikers and bicyclists. They just didn't see it as a compatible use along the Cuyahoga River. Down here in the southern area, it's actually roughly the same situation. The canal lands are privately owned from Zoar all the way down to New Philadelphia. So we now have to go back in and negotiate with private property owners, get access to land either through purchase or an easement. And that takes a lot of time because, again, remember what I said previously, we have no authorities. We cannot force anybody to do anything. The only powers we have are the powers of persuasion and your generous support. And we really depend upon our foundation support, our corporate support, individual support, because all those people who raise their hand and utilize the towpath trail, you're our advocates. You're the reason why we're doing this, so we can make all these different trail connections. This is just a slide just to give you a demonstration of our key partnerships, and I kind of have a philosophy, Craig knows this very well, that if you've got a pulse in Northeast Ohio, we want to talk to you. Because we believe everybody has a stake in what we're doing. Because if you think about it, who doesn't like, on a beautiful day like today, go for a walk on a trail, listen to the birds, listen to the trains as they go through the valley, and that's a great example because Craig has done an absolutely fantastic job with the Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad because it's one of our 3 main linkages. We have the Towpath Trail, which is a multi-use recreational trail. We have an outstanding scenic excursion rail line. That is one of the premier experiences in our country. And then we also have a scenic byway, which is a kind of a secondary roadway so that if you want to drive down to Massillon or Navarre, you don't have to go on Interstate 77, you can actually take secondary roads and visit nice small towns like Barberton, Clinton, and Canal Fulton. But we believe everybody has a stake in what we're doing. And we heavily depend upon our corporate partners. We're a little bit different than the other national heritage areas across the country, of which there's 49. A lot of them tend to be maybe a top-down approach. They use a lot of their federal money for operating. We are the exact opposite. We use a lot of our federal dollars to give to grants to our partners because they're the ones that are actually doing the work at the local level. And so we rely upon our local partners to help us with our operations. I mentioned the 3 linkages there. I apologize. I usually give this disclaimer early on that my great-grandfather was a Baptist minister, so I tend to get a little ahead of myself here, a little bit passionate here. But yeah, these are the 3 linkages that I referred to earlier, the Towpath Trail, the Scenic Byway, and of course the Scenic Railroad. We rely heavily upon volunteers to help us implement our project. I know just like the railroad does. They are one of our core foundations, and this is a group of our volunteers who actually down in Tuscarawas County, they actually built these 300 feet of boardwalk down in Tuscarawas County because we got a state grant to actually purchase the land and build the trail, but we didn't have enough money to actually build the boardwalk. And so down in Tuscarawas County, we actually recruited over 75 volunteers to help us remove trees, build the boardwalk, and so now there's a seamless connection. Up until about a year ago when Mother Nature decided to pick up that boardwalk and move about 6 feet to the east. And yeah, nothing is more devastating to you when you have volunteers do such great work and then Mother Nature decides another idea. Well, believe it or not, and I don't think I have pictures in here of the repairs, but our volunteers were actually able literally to take apart that boardwalk piece by piece, almost like Humpty Dumpty. They marked the sections. Fortunately, Mother Nature didn't destroy any of the sections of the boardwalk, and they were able to put it back in place within about 4 weeks. And that really speaks to the power of volunteers. And it is certified by an engineer, and it is just as good as any job that a construction worker would do. But that kind of gives a sense of our role as a nonprofit organization. We provide all sorts of layers of technical assistance and support. As I mentioned previously, we are a granting agency. You know, our partner is the Scenic Railroad. We try to get them a grant every year so they can help develop, you know, the railroad and the great services and programs that we provide. We provide technical assistance and support with volunteers. So we actually coordinate volunteers. In some cases, we own land. Down in Tuscarawas County, because they don't have a park district, they have a park department of a half-a-time person. Tuscarawas County relies upon us to really help them build the trail and manage it down in Tuscarawas County. But they don't need that type of level of support here in Summit County, so our job here in Summit County is to help raise money for vandals destroying a floating section of the floating Towpath Trail. We have a crowdsource online fundraising campaign going on right now because, for instance, that damage is may cost upwards of over $100,000, and sometimes our partners just don't have that money laying around. So we have to try to help them get the money. So we provide different layers of technical assistance and support to over 150 different partners throughout the Ohio and Erie Canalway. The reason I wanted to share this with you is that sometimes people tend to think trail projects are just kind of, the term out there is tree hugging. You know, it's kind of warm and fuzzy. And the next slide actually indicates, if you don't mind, Ellie, moving the next slide. Thank you. You want to click again? Thank you. This is a great quote from that article that really talks about the relationship between healthy, productive land and water, and really its connection to our fundamental way of life and prosperity. Because a couple of years ago, one of my board members, was asking, well, how would you describe our organization? Are we a conservation organization? Are we an economic development organization? Are we a recreation organization? And I said, well, I don't know that we fit neatly in one of those boxes or buckets. That we're really, it's all of the above, to be perfectly honest with you, because that's what it's all about. We can't save everything. I learned that when I was at the Summit County Historical Society, and I certainly would never advocate that. But that's actually one of the reasons why we like to live here in Northeast Ohio. We have probably one of the most premier park systems in the country, because people tell us that all the time when they move away and they come back. The access of those resources is literally within minutes. And other communities across the country don't have those type of benefits. And so we're really very blessed and fortunate to have that along the Ohio and Erie Canalway. We truly believe that resource conservation, and I don't even like to use the word preservation, because sometimes when you use the word preservation, that implies you put a glass dome over it and you don't do anything with it. Conservation implies you use it. And we encourage folks to get out there and use our resources. But we do that in partnership with companies like Cargill, and we truly believe that by utilizing the resource, by cultivating new stewards for the Ohio and Erie Canalway, people can reduce their carbon footprint and lead healthier lifestyles. In addition to focusing on the spine system, if you will, of the Ohio and Erie Canalway, we also focus on what we call connector trails, because that's where you really start to get into that connector trail network. And if you remember a few minutes ago, I mentioned our goal ultimately is to walk out of here one day, hop on a connector trail to get you to the towpath trail. Because our goal is that every business and local individual and resident should be no more than a 10-minute walk or bicycle ride away from a regional connector trail. And that's really what this slide indicates. This is a Summit County trail map. This is a towpath trail. As you see, it goes through Summit County, and obviously we're up here in the northern part of the county. We have county regional trail maps for each of our counties that are proposing over 400 miles of regional connector trails. All of these trails are in some planning of stage and development. So if you think about it this way, we are focusing on the trunk of the tree, if you will, and now phase 2, which we've already moved into, we're working on the branches of the trees. So that way we don't have to drive down to the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. You should be able to hop on a regional connector trail from your home or business. And here in Summit County, we're very blessed and fortunate because over the past 15 years, Summit County government has granted to our organization about $1.6 million. That's leveraged $27 million of additional local, private, state, and federal resources for development of connector trails. So here in Summit County, we are well on our way to developing connector trails, and particularly in the city of Hudson. They are a really strong leader in the development of the different connector trails, the Veterans Trail that will ultimately connect into Cuyahoga Valley National Park, and all these different lines on here actually indicate that. And those are all the partners involved. This is actually a little bit of a dated slide, but I think it's about, it's over $95 million, the total investment in the Ohio and Erie Canalway. And again, I'm sure you're probably maybe doing the math. Remember I said we're eligible to receive up to a grant of up to $644,000. Well, the math doesn't add up. There just isn't enough money. And so that's why I think, hopefully you understand now, we need the state funding. Clean Ohio is a great example of that program. We, the citizens of Ohio, passed that bond initiative specifically for trails and brownfield development. We are able, hopefully, to tap into those dollars on an annual basis. We do get some federal funds, transportation funds, through the Department of Transportation. But the highest percentage here, clearly, is the local funding. And that can be from city funding, county funding, also can be from Akron Metropolitan Area Transportation Study, and then also private resources. A lot of our foundations have been extremely supportive of our efforts. But that really gives you a sense of the investment of the Ohio and Erie Canal Towpath Trail. In addition to providing technical assistance and support to our partners, we provide a lot of educational opportunities. I'm very proud to say that 90% of what we do is directly related with the resource. We're either going to get you out there on a bicycle, walking, maybe you're going to be fishing with kids, maybe you're actually going to be in the resource, hopefully not literally in the resource, how about on the resource, by canoeing, our health and wellness walking programs, our family bicycling events. And I'm really proud to say that 70% of any contribution that comes to this organization goes right back into our mission. We really want to see that investment out there to develop the resource. I mentioned previously, our partnerships with the private sector, and this just kind of gives you a sample of the partners that are out there. But what we really believe is that we're not trying to change the mission of Goodyear, the way they develop tires, or First Energy, the way they deliver energy, or Dominion. But we also recognize that they have a vested stake in what we're doing, because that, quite frankly, just helps them make money. Their employees are looking for these type of amenities. And so when I go to Washington or Columbus to actually advocate for the Ohio and Erie Canalway, it works the other way as well, because when I share them our newsletter, which I have copies of at your tables, and our newsletter has their logos in there. And so when the members of Congress are actually paging through there and see those logos, it's almost like the good housekeeping seal of approval. Because if these companies are supporting you, it must be a worthy cause. It must be worthwhile for their support. And it truly is about community and economic development. This actually is a slide of one of those regional connector trails, the Confluence Park. It's a really very innovative project, because here you see the Ohio and Erie Canal Towpath Trail coming down here from Akron and heading over towards Barberton. This actually is the Portage Lakes here just in Akron. And so this offers us a tremendous opportunity not only for a land trail, but possibly for a water trail connection. Because more and more people are asking us about those opportunities, whether it's on the Cuyahoga River or the Tuscarawas River. And believe it or not, at one time, the Ohio and Erie Canal and the Portage Lakes were actually connected about right here in this location, where there was actually a lock. And during the late 1800s, early 1900s, you could actually go on an excursion boat ride that connected you from the Ohio and Erie Canal into the Portage Lakes. I don't know if that's possible, but there actually is a study underway to actually see if that is feasible from an engineering standpoint. And that just gives you an idea of the diversity of the activities that we're trying to promote out there in the Ohio and Erie Canalway. And the bottom line, when you come back to it, it's all about economic development. When I see signs up that talk about, promoting this particular property because you're along the Towpath Trail or in downtown Cleveland, that's really the bottom line. Because it's that partnership and collaboration that we're going to be able to promote this area as a destination for corporations as well as residents. It's also really a verified figure out there that according to national studies, properties that are adjacent to trails, the property values actually average an increase in anywhere to 6 to 10% additionally, because people are looking for the immediate access to that. And it truly is about stimulating community and economic development while developing sustainable communities. Some of the recent examples, and unfortunately I don't have a slide of the new hotel, but business retention and business development. This is actually a Northside Lofts, which is actually a condominium development downtown Akron, but the new Courtyard by Marriott, which is a brand new hotel right next to Cuyahoga St. Railroad, just on the north edge of downtown. It's a true game changer. We have some challenges with the rerouting of the Towpath Trail in downtown Akron because of the combined sewer overflow project. But we're already seeing an increase in the number of hikers and bicyclists who are coming through Akron and looking for a place to stay. And so, I know I was talking earlier with Craig about the upcoming Republican National Convention and the potential opportunity to have a lot of folks lodging here in Akron. But this really offers to us an incredible opportunity to really increase tourism, because more and more people are looking for those multi-day bicycling experiences. They're not just going to go out for a 20-mile bicycle ride. They might do a 60-mile bicycle ride and go north and south and utilize this hotel. And also, because of the Bike Aboard program, I sound like I'm promoting the railroad here for a second, but that's another great opportunity. Because if you get tired, just hop on the train. It'll take you back to your car or your destination. But it's a great amenity, and we're really excited to see this development along the Ohio and Erie Canalway. So to kind of wrap things up here, I mentioned previously, over 86 miles of the Towpath Trail are completed. And we just recently completed an economic development study which basically demonstrated that on an annual basis, the projects in the Ohio and Erie Canalway itself generates about $408 million of community and economic development on an annual basis. That's pretty significant. The actual number of jobs actually that are associated with that is at 3,700 jobs. And so it really is about community and economic development. We have about 2.5 million people who actually utilize the Towpath Trail on an annual basis. And what's more important for us is that we are providing an amenity for families and individuals to get out there and recreate in a safe environment, but at the same time creating a legacy for future generations. So I think I just have one more slide here. And I think that pretty much concludes my presentation. But thank you very much for your support, and I would be happy to answer any questions you have at this time. Thank you.
Program. If you go on their website, check on activities, and go to questing. I'm a Quest volunteer. I take care of 6 of your boxes along the Ohio and Erie Canalway project. It's one of the most fun things, and you learn about the history, you learn about the area, and you can see each of the quests. There are about almost 40 of them all along the canalway, all the way down. You can go to the Mustel store. There are 3 of them in that area. And you can go down to Zor, where there are another 2. I've done these. You go with another couple, meet them there, print it off. You can print off the quest online. It's all free. And then you follow the little program through. You follow the steps. And at the end of your walking through the program, or, through the usually it's in poetry, and you have to guess different areas. If you follow it correctly, you learn a lot, and there's a box that's hidden that you register in. So anyway, I'd like to thank you for all your work you're doing on the Ohio and Erie Canalway. It's wonderful out there.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for volunteering, because you're absolutely right that the questing program is a really fun way to get out there and learn, and it's very creative. And also you get to experience the outdoors. So thank you so much for your service and volunteering. And I do actually have a little token of appreciation. I always try to seed the conversation here. We actually have a copy of our latest Towpath Companion, which is a complete guide to the Ohio and Erie Canal Towpath Trail. So I have a complimentary copy for you.
Further question, please. Can you hear me? How does all of your development relate to the preservation of the wildlife? It just so happens that beavers are reestablished themselves, the river otters. I mean, it's fantastic what has happened in the park. How do you relate to that?
Yeah, that's an absolutely great question regarding the natural resources, and I could not agree with you more. Some of the species, it's fascinating to actually see them rebound and incredibly resilient. We actually rely upon our park partners to really take the leadership role in that area. But just for some casual observation standpoint, in downtown Akron, I'll kind of give you the most extreme standpoint, right at the Richard Howe House, and we're located right behind the Canal Park Baseball Stadium and right by Children's Hospital. Excuse me. A couple years ago, we actually literally had an active beaver living in a probably 300-foot section of the Ohio and Erie Canal, because he was between 2 locks. And either he wasn't a very smart beaver, or he was just we kind of refer to him as our bachelor beaver. We actually think he may have got there via walking on the Towpath Trail, believe it or not. And the interesting thing I always found fascinating about him was, well, I discovered him one day because all of a sudden our trees started disappearing. And when he crossed the line, he literally was coming up on our property about probably 50 feet above the bank. It was just, he was doing what beavers do. But the most amazing thing was that in that particular section, the canal's only about 2 or 3 feet deep. And you know how beavers will slap their tail and act like they're hiding? Well, he wasn't hiding from anybody. You could see him in the water. And that was really cool. And then I think, he just kind of went on to someplace else. He realized he needed to have a mate and more food. But I've also seen mink, blue heron, and coyote. And so what that tells me is, we're spending a lot on the Akron Waterways Renewed project, and it's working. because the wildlife is coming back. Because quite frankly, mink, as you all are familiar, and even river otters, they need an environment that has, the water quality has to be really high. And so when they're living there, that means that the water quality is definitely improving. But this past winter, I saw coyote tracks in downtown Akron. I mean, I'm not surprised. Coyotes are everywhere. But it just, it makes you feel good that a lot of the things we're doing from a conservation standpoint, I think, are working. And it's all about balance. As much as I loved having that beaver there, I did go out and protect our trees. I'm not going to lie to you. I would have loved for him to been there, but it's just all about balance. And the same is true about the historical versus the recreational. For the longest time, some of the historical canal folks were really kind of, to be quite frankly, they were kind of concerned that, well, you know, having all these trail users out there, is that going to ruin the historical ambiance? And I think you can have both. I truly do, because I think that's where you really start to get that cross-filterization and cross-stewardship support. Because it's not just about how wide the canal is, how deep the canal is. It's just having an appreciation for this great resource. Why is it here? And it truly is about cultivating that next generation. So thank you for your question, and I have a small gift for you as well.
Thank you.
I got one more last towpath companion, if you like it.
You know, I guess I have a question about that last section of the, in New Philadelphia, you said. Is that, you said it's privately owned? And is that corporations, or is that like private families? What is that? And are you, I mean, is it, are we going to be able to hit the target date that you were shooting for?
I'm sorry, they're all going to be easy questions this morning. It's a great question. And just going to give you a little bit of way of background, so I'll answer your question directly. It is privately owned. It is privately owned by a family corporation, at least 5 miles of that 10 miles is. And we have been in negotiations with this private property owner for about 8 years now. And that just gives you an example. I mean, Craig knows this from working in the nonprofit sector. Again, I go back to, we have no authorities. We cannot tell anybody what to do, and we don't want to, by the way. We're not interested in that. We're interested in the powers of persuasion. And we're having good conversations, but we don't have the line, the ink on the dotted line. I think we'll get there. But then once beyond that, you know, we're working with the City of Dover, City of New Philadelphia. We're having very good conversations. The partners are committed. It's just finding that common ground. And that's where particularly I get a little sensitive because we, the citizens of Ohio, own a significant amount of canal lands that it's still in existence. The Ohio and Erie Canal, the Miami and Erie Canal. And unfortunately, our state agencies are just not very visionary. Believe it or not, if you have property that's adjacent to canal lands and you approach the state of Ohio, they'll sell you that land today. They will. I've been trying to get them to stop doing it, but they won't. Because my frustration is some of the land, the towpath trail we just built where the boardwalk section is, that used to be a publicly owned land, but it was privately owned land. So we had to go and write a grant for public dollars to go back and buy land from the private sector that was once publicly owned. Somebody explain that to me. It doesn't make any sense. So if we have public lands, let's keep them in the public ownership. Because 10, 20 years from now, there might be somebody else in this position advocating for a trail connection. And to give it away today, it doesn't make any sense at all. So thank you for that great question. Here's a gift for you as well. And then the last pitch is, if anybody's interested in joining us as a member, we don't usually do this a whole lot, but joining us as a member is very powerful because as I said, we go to Congress, we talk to them about our mission. I know you get asked for this on a regular basis, but if you enjoy walking on the towpath trail and you enjoy this resource, it's a completely free resource, and you want to support us just as an individual member, please consider doing that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan, and thanks for that explanation. This is what a wonderful resource we have in this area. A couple of announcements. There's a board meeting next week. We have a cluster meeting after this meeting, and all are welcome to stay for that. And we'd like to thank our greeters today, Jay Yard and Liz Kwolek, and our AV and setup crew, Tom Page and Tom Tobin and John Hairston and Ron Barnhouse. Thanks again to Ellie, again, for being here today. And thanks to you and Catherine for saving us on the AV system. Yes. Our drawing for the Rotobuck today is $16 to the winner and $326 payout. I'll let Dan draw the winning ticket.
Fine day next week, too.
Oh, Ed, yes, fine day next week, yes. Yes. Okay, the last 4 digits, 1617, 1617. That's me. Yeah, you're the
Let George.
Thank you, George. Thank you. Okay, okay. Nope. Okay. Thank you, George. Drive carefully today. The kids are out on their bikes. Thank you.